Random House Audio presents The Sorcerers and Their Apprentices, How the Digital Magicians of the MIT Media Lab are creating the innovative technologies that will transform our lives. By Frank Moss, former director of the MIT Media Lab. Read for you by Bruce Turk. Preface. We must humanize technology before it dehumanizes us. Oliver Sacks, neurologist and author. In December of 2005, I was struggling with a decision. Should I accept an offer to become the MIT Media Lab's next director? It looked to be a dream job for a career technologist and entrepreneur such as myself, and it fit well with my desire to contribute more directly to the challenges facing society. However, I was wondering if this move made any sense at all for me, given the well-known cultural differences between business and academia that I had heard so much about. To get an insider's view, I called Professor Rodney Brooks, then director of MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory, CSAIL. Brooks is a distinguished academic in the field of robotics, and also a successful entrepreneur, so I guessed he might relate to my dilemma. When I asked why he had made the decision to become director of CSAIL, he pondered the question for a moment and then declared, "Besides the opportunity to work with the smartest people anywhere, the biggest advantage of being director of a major MIT lab is that if there is a story you want to tell, it's a fantastic stage from which to tell it." After I took the job, I thought about this often, and before long, the story I wanted to tell became clear. Actually, it was many stories. Perhaps it's not so surprising that as I traveled around talking about the Media Lab, audiences were blown away by the latest inventions that I showcased. But what struck me was that they were equally impressed by the stories I told about how these inventions actually came into being, how they grew out of an environment that totally defies the conventional wisdom of what a research lab should be. At the Media Lab, people from an astonishing variety of disciplines, architects, computer scientists, electrical engineers, musicians, neuroscientists, physicists, visual artists, just to name a few, enjoy the unrestricted freedom to create and invent as their passions dictate. They don't sit around and wait for inspiration to hit. Rather than thinking about what to build, they dive in and build what they are thinking about. This unfolds totally out in the open, in cluttered workshops where students rub shoulders regularly with liaisons from the world's largest corporations. The only guidelines for the researchers are that 1. Their inventions have the potential to significantly improve people's lives in the future, and 2. Their work is radically different from what anyone else is doing. In this open and anything-goes environment, ideas germinate, cross-pollinate, and mutate in a fashion that is literally out of control. But that's the idea. Out of this creative chaos emerge literally hundreds of inventions a year, from the practical to the lunatic. It is not uncommon for one or more of them to survive and somehow grow into an innovation that disrupts industries, spawns entirely new ones, or even transforms society. Inspired by the enthusiastic reception of my audiences, I have designed this book as a collection of stories about the faculty and student inventors at the Media Lab, the Sorcerers and Their Apprentices, providing a behind-the-scenes look into the fascinating process, the magic by which they create and invent. The stories that I have elected to tell, roughly 24 in all, cover only a fraction of the inventions that are generated at the Media Lab every year. However, these are ones that I find to be particularly representative of both the Media Lab's highly unorthodox approach to invention and innovation, as well as the exciting new directions that its research is taking today. I'm not the first to write a book about the inventors and their inventions at the MIT Media Lab. Shortly after it officially opened its doors in 1985, the futurist Stuart Brand introduced it to the world in his 1987 volume, The Media Lab, Inventing the Future at MIT. In it, Brand, who had spent some time in residence at the fledgling Media Lab, described the efforts of the early team, most of whom didn't fit into the traditional academic silos of MIT, but thrived in the eclectic, highly unorthodox environment of the Media Lab. This included co-founder and first director Nicholas Negroponte, who famously predicted the digital convergence of three industries: print publishing, broadcast entertainment, and computers, as well as the seismic shifts that this convergence would have on people, industries, and society. Negroponte later elaborated on these in his own 1995 book, Being Digital. While I was in the process of completing this book, the Media Lab celebrated its 25th anniversary. By this time, in fall of 2010, the digital convergence that Negroponte predicted had indeed occurred. Today's social, mobile, aware, real-time, and hyper-connected world of people and information, which the Media Lab helped to catalyze, has changed how we live, work, and play to a degree perhaps even greater than Negroponte or his co-founders could have possibly imagined. But as amazing as these technologies seem to us, they are mere digital affordances compared to what is being imagined and invented at the Media Lab today. In addition to tapping into the full power of information and communication technologies, researchers at the lab are also leveraging equally dramatic advances in the biological, physical, and social sciences, enabling them to create a new generation of inventions that will have a much deeper impact on people's lives. Heeding Oliver Sacks's urgent entreaty to humanize technology, the Media Lab's mission for the next quarter century is to empower ordinary people to do truly extraordinary things and, in the process, take control over the most important aspects of their lives: their health, their wealth, and their happiness. In the pages ahead, you will read about revolutionary technologies being developed in the workshops at the Media Lab today that are much simpler and much less intrusive in people's everyday lives, augment human mental and physical abilities, beginning with the disabled, learn from people, understand them, and are highly responsive to their wants and needs, help people reflect and act on their life data to make truly rational decisions, make homes, workplaces, and cities adaptable to their human inhabitants, unleash the full creative powers within every human being. I would like to offer the reader just a brief explanation of how I organized the stories in this book and explain some key messages that I would like to emphasize. Like the Media Lab itself, this book doesn't have a very formal and rigid structure. But roughly, each chapter contains about 3 stories about the inventors and their inventions, which, taken together, help illustrate a particular theme. In chapters 1 through 4, the theme of each is a fundamental principle that underlies the Media Lab's unique approach to innovation, as follows. Chapter 1. The Power of Passion introduces the unprecedented creative freedom that its researchers enjoy to invent according to their passions and curiosities, in an environment where the only real rule is that there are no rules, and where there is no such thing as a failure. Chapter 2, Disappearing Disciplines, describes the lab's anti-disciplinary ethos, where people from widely different backgrounds think about problems in wildly different ways from the past, unencumbered by preconceived notions of what is possible or what the solutions should look like. Chapter 3, Hard Fun, is about the Media Lab's distinctive approach to playful invention, which begins by teaching students how to build almost anything and then encourages them to express their most fanciful ideas by building them and then seeing what happens when people use them. Chapter 4, Serendipity by Design, explains how the Media Lab deliberately fosters an environment in which the kinds of unlikely and seemingly random connections that spark truly big ideas not only happen, but can't help but happen.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?